All right, hopefully my microphone is working a-okay. It's been giving me some weird issues lately, but hopefully it's a-okay. Or maybe my voice has just been a little bit hoarse lately. I was recording a ThingerBob earlier today and it came out like really bad. So hopefully everything is a-okay. Hello, Crystal and Razorleaf. Hope you're both doing well today. Oh, my doggy's kind of come to see me. She's just around the corner. You want to come here? Hi. Hi, silly doggy. The last time that I streamed this was like 2 weeks ago. Hi. 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 How are you doing? Have you come to see me? How's it going? Right when I'm beginning streaming, huh? Now all of a sudden you get all affectionate and stuff? Hi. Anyway, well, I have a Dogia next to me. Yeah, 2 weeks since, like, beating this. Well, we beat, like, Route A first time. And then apparently you load your finished save file and then it starts you at, like, the beginning of the time skip, but, like, a little bit in, things become different, is what I hear. Anyway, I found myself in this situation where I'm kind of overwhelmed by, oh, it starts you here, and there's no game on screen. It would probably help if you could actually see the video game. Might be a helpful thing. Nah, just use your imagination. There you go. Well, you don't have to use SpongeBob's imagination anymore. Anyway. Yeah, so I guess we're starting right from this point. So not the very, very beginning of part 2 then. So thank goodness for that. Usually I stay silent during cutscenes, but since we've seen these before, I'll just talk during it. I'll stop talking when it becomes different. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, we beat Route A, and my university semester started. So I've Kane's dreams Oh, it's already different then? Like, what's going on? Oh, it's gonna be another, like, text thing, Bob, in that case, is what it's gonna be. Madoogi's just around the corner there. Anyway, beat it a couple weeks ago, and then my university semester started, and then everything wound up getting really, really busy with that. So, it really... I don't know if you can hear her squeaking her toy in the other room there. It's really exemplified to me how this whole... this whole stance I've had of covering like a bazillion games at once is definitely not the kind of thing that I'll be able to like keep doing forever, so I just, you know, do it while I can. This wave of busyness has very much brought that to my attention yet again. Doggy's having fun there. There's a couple games that I've actually run out of uploads on, technically speaking. The other really big notable one is Splatoon 3, which is, you know, the recent release, and since I cover mostly Nintendo games on this channel and it's the new release, it's like the big hip trending thing nowadays, the thing that's all hip with the kids. So since I'm out of both NieR Replicant uploads and Splatoon 3 uploads, the smarter thing to stream tonight would have actually been Splatoon 3. Like, that would have been like the cooler thing to do. Reason why I'm doing this is, like, one, it's been a little bit longer since I've done it, even if it's not, like, even if it's not as well known of a series on my channel, I still feel obligated to, like, hop into it when it's been, like, such a long span. Another reason is because last night, I slept terribly, but I did get, like, a couple hours of sleep, at least. And during those couple hours, I had a dream that I was playing NieR Replicant and that it turned out to be, like, one of the greatest things I'd ever played. And then then I woke up, I didn't even remember like what it was I was experiencing. I just remember that it was great. So I was like, huh, I want to stream NieR Replicant later today now. So here I am streaming NieR Replicant now. And that's my silly reason there. Essentially, that's the bigger reason. I was originally gonna stream like some Splatoon 3 today if I had the time, but I changed my mind to NieR Replicant after I dreamt about it. Yeah, it came to me in a dream. I don't even remember what I was experiencing. I just remember that I was playing this game, and that I was like, wow, that's amazing. So now I want to, now I want to play it. The sound of rain filled the village. The steep cliffs that surrounded the area magnified sound, causing even the slightest drizzle to rattle like a thunderstorm. Thin wisps of smoke streamed from huts as villagers huddled in their homes and waited out the rain. It was actually, I was thinking about streaming a little bit last night, but it was actually storming really, really bad. Like, I was really worried about the power going out at any moment. So, thinking about storms reminded me of that. A single child, however, braved the downpour and was now wandering slowly toward the wooden, hawk-shaped weather vane at the center of town. The wanderer reached the vane, which had existed for as long as any could remember, and stared. Is Doogie still around the corner? No, she got a burst of energy and then she zoomed out. Child's face was simultaneously delicate and fierce. Why couldn't I say the word simultaneously? There we go. like a teacup that had survived a shipwreck. Those taints combined with pale white skin to give the face an almost sexless quality. If the beak turns east, I go home. If it stays west, then I... The child blinked. Rain slowly dripped down the young one's short hair and began its long descent to the ground. Come on. Come on! Blue Falcon! Show me a Okay, the child felt a slight breeze and watched as the veins slowly creaked to life. Spinning this way and that for a moment, it finally settled with the beak pointing firmly toward the east. East? Really? Before the vein could move again, a jagged rock came spinning and tumbling through the air, striking home against the child's head, not striking the home. That's a very different thing. The force of the blow dropped the child to the ground as a hail of stones began to fall all around. Oh no, they found me. A heartbreaking smile crept across the child's face as the stones continued their assault. Through the rain, the sound of multiple footsteps grew louder as a voice rang out. Yoo-hoo, Kaine! Voice belonged to Demo. But it was me! Demo! Worst of all the bullies in the area, as Kaine struggled to stand. A final stone came... I'm sorry. I'm just kidding, I'm not. A final stone came skittering down the mud and bounced against her foot. Blood oozed from a cut above her eye and blurred her vision, but she could not make out the shapes of Demo and his usual gang of idiots. The boys seemed taken aback for a moment by Kaine's seeming indifference to the blood dripping from her face, but quickly regained his bravado. What's up, freak? You like the rain? Or like getting all wet? Did you finally decide to run away from home? Though she knew it was futile, Kaine turned to leave. Before she could get more than a few steps, the other children scrambled to surround her, cruelty burning in their eyes. Kaine knew those were not the only ones on her. Tormentor's parents watched from the safety of their homes. She was attuned to this sensation. It was one she had experienced many times before. While some villagers simply turned a blind eye to the actions of their children, many encouraged it openly. In a society ruled by superstition and fear, Kaine was something to be hated and, if possible, destroyed. I didn't say you could leave, freak. Demos! Words chewed at her like a worm through an apple. You can't hurt me, she lied to herself. Be strong, be brave. You can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. You can't. Oh look, the little freak is gonna cry. What's wrong? Are you sad that everyone hates you and wants you dead? That's like, that's not even like, how do I phrase it? Like, bullying is one thing, and then there's that, which is like the scale above. Kaine prayed for the rain to flood down and carry her away from a world that seemed to have no place for her. But if there were gods, they chose to ignore her. As Demo crept ever closer, the clouds began to thin and the rain slowed. Even the weather hates me. I'm useless, a failure. I wish Demo's rock had taken my head off. Kaine couldn't meet Demo's leering gaze. She lowered her eyes and stared at the muddy ground below. The bully moved forward until he was inches away. She could smell the scent of old meat on his breath. The boy grabbed Kaine's face with thick fingers and yanked it upward. She tried to turn away, but he forced her gaze back and jammed his thumb against her eyelid to pry it open. Show me. No. You just say no? Demo grinned evilly. You don't say no to me. No one says no to me. Not even taking his attention from Kaine, he called to his cohorts. Come on, guys. Let's give the freak what she deserves. As soon as Demo finished, kicks and blows began to rain down upon Kaine. Demo paused, still grinning, as Kaine curled into a ball and tried to make the pain stop. I don't get you, freak. What you acting like a girl for, huh? Everyone knows what you really are. Kaine ignored the question, choosing instead to stare at the weather vane. It continued to point east, as if supremely confident about the future it had chosen for her. Go home? Yeah, it's a funny joke for someone with dead parents and no home to go to. Freak, chanted the children. Freak, freak, freak. Kaine closed her eyes and listened to the rain, waiting for the pain to start again. As the clutching hands of the village children closed around her, she bent her mind to the sound of rain, letting it become her world entire. The rain fell, but the pain never came. Only when the laughter of her tormentors turned to terrified cries did she dare open a single, blood-caked eye. Kaine was shocked to see Demo sprawled on the ground, holding his head and screaming in pain. She She could see blood welling from spaces between his fat, twisted fingers. My God, he's crying. He's actually crying. Deprived of their leader, the other children glanced back and forth between themselves, as if waiting for someone to step forward and take charge. When no savior emerged, it began an uneasy shuffle away from Kaine. But the young girl was the least of their concerns. Instead, their attention was rapt on the ancient woman standing a few feet away. After struggling for breath for a moment, she spoke in a voice thick with age. Or wait, age, or was that rage? Gosh dang it. I was kind of looking over at like OBS and making sure the audio levels were okay, and I didn't quite properly read it. I'm gonna adjust it slightly. Every time I click off, it's gonna like mute it for a hot second. Yeah, I'll adjust it very slightly like that. What, can I not? Do I not have free reign of my mouse cursor anymore? Okay, apparently not. Wait, if I alt tab off and then I click on it like this, now I have free reign of my mouse cursor. I'm playing this in windowed mode, so it's like all weird. It's like a bitch, don't it? Now I suggest you scatter before I throw another one. If any of you little bastards ever touch my Kaine again, they're far worse than throw a rock. You can count on it. The old woman, wait, would this be like, I wasn't sure what kind of tone to give here. Would this be like Kaine's grandmother that we heard a little bit about in like the first route? The old woman crouched down and gently touched the hand Dima was using to cover the wound. Before he could think to protest, she ground her palm into the wound and twisted it back and forth. Ow, he screamed, leaping to his feet. His fate? His feet. My goodness gracious. I'm gonna adjust the audio levels here a little bit. I've been tinkering around with OBS a little bit recently, so like, I think this is the normal level that I have it at. I don't know. Stop it. What are you doing? Quit whining. Ain't no one ever died from a scratch. Hit me with a rock, you stupid bitch. A big one. That could have killed me. The old woman shrugged. Death is the best cure for stupid. Dima's face twisted with rage at her words. Locking his eyes on Kaine, he took a step backward and spat on the ground. Get out. Leave this village. No one wants you here, either of you. Seeing the old woman grab another stone, Dima and his companions turned tail and ran. As they fled, the old woman grabbed her side and barked out a single laugh. Look at the fat boy go. Guess he's healthy enough to run from a fight. The woman's smile faded as she turned her attention to Kaine. Kneeling down, she removed her shawl and placed it around the young girl's shoulders, then produced a cloth from the folds of her dress and began blotting the blood on her forehead. Oh, Kaine, she said, why didn't you fight back? You're stronger than that lot. The words of her grandmother stung Kaine, and she turned away. Be nice to me, she said. I don't deserve it. Nothing matters anymore. Her tears, held in check for so long, finally began to fall on the muddy ground below. Everyone hates me. They think I cause bad things to happen. They think I'm a freak. I wish I was dead. As Kaine's tears turned to sobs, she felt her grandmother's hands on her shoulders. Despite her advanced age and diminutive size, she was a woman of surprising strength, and Kaine found herself unable to turn away. Don't talk like that, girl. It's a river wide and deep that flows between the realms of this world and the next, and it grants no mercy to any that attempt the crossing. You got a duty to fight until your last breath. Understand? The old woman tightened her grip and tried to still the tremor in her voice. You know the pain of losing someone close to you, Kaine. You know because you survived it. As the words hit home, Kaine was struck by the force of her love for the old woman. As a young child, she didn't even know of her grandmother, but when her parents died, the woman quickly accepted her as her own. Grandma, as Kaine called her, was cunning, vulgar, and quick to violence, and their first few years together had not been easy. But with each year that passed, Kaine and her grandmother had grown closer. However, it was only now, sitting in the mud with tears and blood caking her face, that Kaine truly understood the depths of her affection. Here was a woman who had seen hard times, who had seen death, who had fought through all these things and somehow emerged on the other side. If anyone could understand Kaine's pain and loneliness, it was her. I make you sick, Grandma? Of course not. Don't be an ass. Kaine drew her grandmother's moth-eaten shawl around her body and shuddered. But my body, it's not normal. If I was normal, then Mom and Dad wouldn't... Hush, interrupted Grandma. I'll not hear another word of this nonsense. You're my granddaughter, and I love you. If folks have a problem with that, then they can just go to hell. With that, the old woman reached out and placed a wreath of dried flowers in Kaine's hair. The skill it took to bend the flowers without breaking the stems or losing a single petal was remarkable, and the beauty of it made Kaine want to cry all over again. My gosh, these are lunar tears. Grandma, you made this for me? Lunar tears were legendary flowers. Most people could live their entire lives without ever seeing one, yet her grandmother had somehow collected a dozen or more. Kaine reached up and touched the wreath as if she couldn't believe it was real. Where did you find these? Just stumbled on them while I was out doing the shopping. The old woman turned away as she spoke, leading Kaine to suspect that the search had been more difficult than she was letting on. The pains she took to construct the ornament, let alone track down the flowers used in its construction, made Kaine's heart hurt. I can't word today. She reached up and gently adjusted the wreath, admiring the way it felt between her fingers. Didn't quite turn out right, said her grandmother as she squinted at it. These old hands have trouble with delicate work, but sure looks good on a pretty girl like you. Kaine blushed and turned away. You think I'm pretty? Of course you are. A fool thing to say. Thank you, Grandma. Her grandmother smiled. We're gonna be fine, you and me, she said. As long as we got each other, we'll be just fine. Kaine took her grandmother's hand in hers, and the two of them struggled to their feet. As they began the long walk home, Kaine gripped the hand with all her might, as if trying to stop smoke from drifting away on the wind. The rain had stopped. Kaine stood beneath the weather vane, watching it spin in lazy circles, no longer caring about the direction it faced when it stopped. I don't need to escape. I have a home now. Grandma loves me, and that's enough. Even if it's us against the world. Kaine let her gaze drift up past the vane and into the cloudy sky. The last faint hints of a rainbow were slowly fading. As she turned and headed for home, the light scattered into a million particles and vanished, seemingly taken away on the breeze. Kaine's dreams daily. So, when I cut this up into parts later, this is just gonna become like a big passage of reading, essentially. I fully expected it within the place with the forest and the people that were stuck in the world of dreams, but I guess this is what's happening when Kaine is petrified, or like coming out of petrification. Neat. Well, my voice hasn't been in the best of states the past couple days, I feel like. So this is gonna be great practice to get it back to like tip-top shape, especially since tomorrow I plan on going to a Comic-Con that's going on locally. I plan on going in my Harmonia cosplay and stuff and trying to like get out into world more and stuff. Did I pull it? Oh my goodness. I think I accidentally, no, I'm getting my cables mixed up. I have the cable for my camera taped to like the bottom of my desk that goes to my computer. I thought the cable was loose, and I just realized I'm dumb because it's the cable for my controller. You can tell it's been a while since playing a game where I plug a controller into my PC, since we mostly do Switch games on this channel, so it's been a little while, and I forgot what the cable looked like, I guess. And I yanked part of the cable out recently for the camera, so that's why I got confused. In the distance, Kaine heard the steady sounds of an axe striking wood. Dead axe. The noise had a purposeful quality to it, as if she were hearing a master woodsman go about his work. Chopping wood is actually pretty satisfying. The firewood being produced, however, was as far from a work of art as could be. Pieces of every shape and size were being flung around a barren yard with wild abandon. Anyone trying to stack such wood would probably die of frustration before the job was through. Stupid piece of shit axe. That's Kaine's grandmother. Stupid piece of shit axe, I don't know. Kaine's grandmother flailed away with the axe, filling the air with both splinters of wood and words that would make the most hardened most hardened sailor blush. Grandma, called Kaine. Not you, Kaine, yelled the old woman, taking her eyes off the wood for a moment. Don't get too close or I might take your goddamn foot off by mistake. She brought the axe down on a piece of wood, sending chips flying in every direction. One spun past Kaine close enough for her to hear the whistle, at which point she decided to step back. Once she'd scuttled to a safe distance, she cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, Grandma, do you need help? Okay, this is still Kaine speaking, I guess, even though it's like the different lines there. Do you need help? I'll get you water or lunch or a new axe or something. The axe, poised to strike another wobbly blow, paused in midair. The old woman considered her granddaughter's offer for a moment, then smiled. Tell you what, since I'm doing such a piss-poor job of chopping, why don't you come here and take over so I can go get the water? Shade's been restless lately. I don't know why you're running into one of them bastards. Relinquishing the axe, her grandmother picked up a long pole with wooden buckets on either end. Gathering water was by far the more difficult of the two jobs, but Kaine knew better than to complain. Once Grandma's mind was set, there was no changing it. Kaine did her best to help with chores, but Grandma took every task that required travel to the village. Though she had a long list of plausible excuses, Kaine knew the real reason. She didn't want her granddaughter to be taunted and harassed by the villagers. Once Kaine moved in, Grandma decided to take up residence a good distance from the area. Out of sight, out of mind seemed to be the best policy when it came to the villagers and her granddaughter, and rare were the days when any but the two of them could be found on the rocky acre of land they called home. Kaine enjoyed the solitude, but harbored a secret resentment that her grandmother was forced to spend her golden years in such a place. After watching her grandmother leave, Kaine turned her attention to the task at hand. She had never chopped wood before in her life, and soon discovered why the old woman hated the chore. Swing after swing of the axe produced only a tiny crack in the wood. When she finally managed to connect with a solid stroke, the tool embedded itself in the log and refused to budge. Well, I mean, when it's embedded in the log, you still just like swing it up again and strike it down with like the log still attached to it, and then it'll split into. Anyway, frustrated, Kaine swung the axe around her head and threw it, log and all, across the yard. Like, you don't have to take it out in like one fell swoop. If it takes like a couple chops, then that just means that it gets like lodged in the first time, and then with the axe embedded in the log, you like swing the log down again and then goes through, or gets a little bit farther and then you get it from there, you know. Damn it. Oh, crap. She suddenly understood the joy her grandmother felt in a good curse. Happier now, she picked up the axe, forced it from the wood, and resumed chopping. She had a natural skill with a blade, but the task was challenging, and blisters soon began to form on her small pink hands. And yeah, maybe a little bit dangerous, but you get used to it and then it becomes like not too dangerous. I guess this is also like speaking from experience with my family having a lake cabin, which is largely heated by a wood fireplace in the wintertime. We do have a furnace, but like during the wintertime we have a bunch of wood, so we just like do a mix of like fire heating and furnace heating essentially. This is tough. My logs are all weird sizes, so I have experience chopping wood there. When I was at this camp near the mountains with this friend of mine that I grew up with early this past May, no, late May-ish, something like that. It was at this camp that was open to like university students across the province. It was like this week-long trip thingamabob that was a kind of interesting thing. And the cabins that each of us stayed in were completely heated by a fireplace. Like that was it when it came to the heating, and everyone had to, you know, go get wood for that. There were some hatchets around, but you know, when it's pitch black and you don't know like who in your area took the hatchet last, it can be a little bit difficult to find the hatchet when you need it, and you need to chop up like some kindling or something like that. So I just started like getting some planks of wood, and I just started using like freaking taekwondo kicks to break some of them. Like the porch for these cabins, it was a little bit elevated, so it was like porch, then it goes down, and then here's like the ground and dirt. So I would just like take these boards, prop them up against that, and then just like kick right down at an angle to snap it into, and then I burned it. So that was one alternative. Obviously you're not going to be able to use like kicks to split logs, like these were, you know, leftover planks of wood, but you know, like thin planks, not like, you know, well, I mean, whatever. Spitting on her palms and ignoring the pain, Kaine redoubled her efforts. So I've experienced splitting wood with like both axe or foot. Just as she was developing a rhythm, Grandma returned from the village. Setting down her buckets with a small sigh, she took one look at the logs and coughed out a wheezy laugh. Pretty clumsy, girl. You better practice if you... Grandmother suddenly collapsed to her knees, causing one of the buckets to wobble precariously. Eyes wide, Kaine dropped the axe and ran to her grandmother's side. Grandma! The old woman shook her head and pointed a trembling finger at the bucket. Get the bucket. Can't let it spill. Kaine steadied the bucket with a foot as she knelt by her grandmother. A small bit of water sloshed over the side and made a new home in the hem of her dress, but Kaine didn't notice. Grandma, what's happening? Crazed with panic, she grabbed her grandmother by the shoulders and shook. After a moment, the woman lifted her arms and batted Kaine away. Stop that. Just stop, she cried, breathing heavily. It ain't like I'm dying. Just tired from the trip is all. Kaine desperately wanted to believe her, but one look at the old woman's shaking hands and worn face told her more than words ever could. Her grandmother had lived a long, hard life, and it seemed the bill was finally coming due. The time when her grandmother watched over Kaine was ending. Sooner than either of them had feared, the positions would be reversed. The next morning, Kaine came to the side of her grandmother's bed and took her wrinkled hand. Grandma, you're sick, and you need medicine. I'm going to the village. The old woman shook her head and tried to rise, but Kaine gently pushed her down. "It's all right," she said. "We'll be fine." Grandmother fixed her with a gaze that could melt steel. After what seemed an eternity, she finally lowered her eyes and sighed. "Well, I don't like it, goddammit. But I guess I should quit being so stubborn and let you grow up." The old woman watched as Kaine strapped on her boots and made her way down the road to the village. Hours later, as an unseen sun made its way across a dark and rainy sky, she was still watching. Kaine moved at a brisk pace, checking her pockets every few minutes to make sure the money her grandmother gave her was still there. Every noise caused her to spin on her heels, making sure she wasn't being stalked by a shade, or worse, Dima and his gang. But she encountered neither tormentors nor shades, and Kaine finally found herself at the entrance to the village. The few adults she could see glanced sideways at her, then muttered to each other behind raised hands before slinking away into the shadows. Her heart racing, Kaine took a series of rapid, shallow breaths and tried to calm herself. "I have to prove myself. I have to help Grandma. I have to be strong." She chanted those words to herself over and over as she slowly made her way. Finally, her eyes settled on a rotund older woman who was angrily waving her arms in the air and telling anyone who would listen exactly what she thought of Kaine's presence. Also hope it's going well today, Enzos. So you're already living in the near future, huh? "Hey lady," said Kaine with a bravado she did not feel. "Where's the apothecary?" The woman's flabby cheeks shook in bewildered anger. "How dare this thing speak to me?" they seemed to say. But Kaine saw that her eyes held a different emotion. Fear. "Yeah, we're both scared, lady. Trust me on this one." "Which way?" Kaine repeated. The woman pointed at a small building to her right before hitching up her dress and stumbling off in the other direction. Kaine cringed, expecting a stone to come flying from the assembled crowd, but none came. Her mind was filled with a strange sense of pride as she made her way to the apothecary, but the new emotion had little time to take root, for as soon as she opened the door, she noticed a familiar customer at the counter. It was Dima. He'd certainly been sent here on some kind of family errand, because his gang of followers was nowhere to be found. "Oh my god," he sputtered. Oh, at first I thought he was talking to like the person behind the counter, is what I thought, or whatever there. "Oh my god. But what are you doing, you freak?" The insult was delivered without force, and Kaine happily ignored it. Stretching on tiptoes to see over the counter, she asked the shopkeeper for the medication. "Ha," barked Demo. "That old bitch finally keel over? Go to hell, Demo." The boy's eyes grew so wide they seemed to really fall out of his head. But before he could let fly a comeback, or worse, a punch, the apothecary told him to knock it off before he kicked them out of the store. Demo slunk out of the shop, cursing Kaine under his breath. Once he was gone, she allowed herself to breathe once more, taking a brief tour of the shop while the owner prepared her medication. Countless tiny bottles filled the cramped store, each with a label written in some indecipherable language. An ocean of aromas assaulted her nose, creating a scent that was exotic. My throat! Ah! But not altogether unpleasant. Seeing such a variety of supplies gave Kaine a sense of peace. Surely, in a world so vast, there would be a place she could call home. On the far wall, behind the counter, rested a portrait of a stunning young girl. The picture had once contained bright, vibrant colors, but time had worked its cruel magic, and they were beginning to fade. The beauty of the work, however, remained undiminished. "You like that picture?" Kaine turned to find the apothecary with a small vial of medicine in his hand. His eyes were gentle, but sad. They seemed to stare through her and into nothing as he spoke. "That's my daughter. I sketched it when she was just a little girl. She's been dead a long time now." Kaine didn't know how to respond. She just stared at the portrait and tried to come up with the right words. "Pictures are wonderful things," continued the shopkeeper. "They let the ones closest to you live on forever." He shook his head slightly, then looked down at Kaine and smiled. Handing her the medicine, he reached into his sizable green apron and produced a handful of old wax crayons. "You should have these. There's no one left that I wish to draw." Kaine took an instinctive step back, causing the shopkeeper's face to darken. "Yes, I've heard the rumors about you," he said. "It's a small village, and word travels quickly. Between you and me, I'm not sure which of them to believe, but I also don't think they matter much. I know your grandmother, Callie, and I think the way she was driven out of this town is just deplorable." Grandma's name is Callie? Thought Kaine suddenly. She was still mulling this new fact over in her mind as she reached out and gently took the crayons from the apothecary's hands. "Grandmother's an old friend of mine," he said as Kaine screwed away yet again, "and and I owe her much. I bet you she would like it if you drew a picture of her. Yes, I think she would like that. Wait, is this still the same? I assume this is still the same guy. I bet you she would like it if you drew a picture of her. Yes, I think she would like that very much. Kaine murmured a quiet agreement, but inside her heart was bursting. Never before had a villager treated her with anything but complete contempt. It was a tiny, almost imperceptible step, but it was a step nonetheless. And with enough tiny steps, she might one day discover the rest of the world. When Kaine returned home, she found her grandmother asleep in her bed. Her feet were blackened and raw, even bleeding a bit in places, leading Kaine to think that she had been pacing around the room until exhaustion finally caught up with her. She placed the medicine by her grandmother's pillow and turned to leave, but found the old woman's hand clasped around her arm. "Back already, are you?" asked her grandmother with a yawn. "Come here, let me have a look at you." Grandma sat up and examined Kaine from head to toe. Finally satisfied that nothing terrible had befallen her grandchild, she leaned back and allowed herself to relax. "Well, how was it? Those bastards give you any trouble?" "It was kind of fun," said Kaine with a small smile. "No, seriously, it was." "Fun, eh?" asked her grandmother in a voice which implied she believed anything but. So anytime you need me to run an errand, just let me know." As she spoke, Kaine removed the crayons from her pocket. After a brief explanation of their source, she informed her grandmother that she was going to sketch her portrait. "A portrait of me? Ridiculous. No one wants to stare at a wrinkled old crone." "But Grandma, it'll make you live forever." "Oh shit," said her grandmother, throwing back the sheet from her bed. "Living forever would just piss me off. Put those crayons away and help with dinner." Kaine would not relent, and in the end, Grandma found herself leaning against the wall of their house as if posing for a master artist. Kaine took up the crayons, eyed her subject carefully, and set to work. Just as her grandmother was about to nod off, Kaine finished the piece. After staring at it for a bit, she released it from her grip and let it slowly drift to the floor. "It's terrible. Doesn't look like you at all." Wait. I got confused because there wasn't like the quotations on the left side, but there is on the right side, so I thought that this was just like more narration rather than speaking. I guess in translation they just forgot that one there, like slight typo, I guess. The game has been out for a little bit over a year now, so I'm surprised that hasn't been like patched. There's a lot of situations like that in video games where it's just like a really small typo where it's like, oh, you'd think somebody would notice that and you know, they'd fix that in like some future patch, and then no. That happens with so many video games. Anyway, there's so many things in like so many video games that's like, why is this an issue? Like the audio mixing being so bad in so many games as well. Like it hasn't been too bad in this game, but there's so many games I've played where it's like the music is louder than the voices like so much of the time, you know, for like the default audio level. Like I've been noticing that in a couple cutscenes in Xenoblade 3, for example, but Xenoblade X is like the worst culprit in that series. Sorry, Grandma, I thought these crayons would, you know, make drawing easy or something. The old woman's eyes narrowed at her grandmother's disappointment. "Let me be the judge of that," she said, ignoring the pain in her back and reaching for the paper. The sketch could have been a person's face. It also could have been a boulder, a lump of clay, or an incredibly misshapen loaf of bread, all rendered in a chaotic array of colors. The old woman stared at the picture for a long time, and slowly wheezed out a laugh. "Oh, Kaine," she said between laughter. "You truly are my blood. You're as clumsy as me, and I love it. But, hush, I won't hear any more bull about how ugly you think it is. It came from the heart, and I'll treasure it always." True to her word, the old woman gave the picture a place of honor above the kitchen table. In the days that followed, Kaine would often catch her staring at the portrait with a strange smile on her face, an action she interpreted as silent, mocking laughter. A week later, Kaine could stand it no more, and asked her grandmother to take the artwork down. "Posh," said the old woman. "I'll take this down when they roll me in my shroud." She pondered this for a bit, then turned to Kaine and dropped to one knee. "Listen to me, girl. Seeing this picture makes me happy in a way I've never felt before. It makes me want to go on, so that someday you can feel the same happiness." There was a moment that burned itself in Kaine's memory. A perfect blend of pride and love and joy that came together to form a lifelong remembrance. She swore to never forget this moment, to never forget the old woman who had made her place in the world possible. Time moves on. People and memories move on and in and out of life like ghosts passing through a hall. But this moment will be different, Kaine swore, because I will remember it forever. Forever. Kane's dream is separation. Yeah, I've been streaming for over half an hour, and this is the way that's gonna be. Kane listened to the sound of crackling firewood and stared at the black object on her plate. She'd been pushing it around the wooden disc for a good 10 minutes, ignoring the bemused stare of her grandmother. Finally, she summoned her courage and gave the object a brief sniff. A sharp, bitter scent flew up her nostrils and made its home there, causing her face to twist with disgust. Grandma, I can't believe you want me to eat a bug. The old woman threw some more wood under the cooking pot and snorted. It's no bug, you fool girl. It's a berry. Why the hell would I be feeding you bugs? Yeah, well, it sure looks like a bug, said Kaine. I think it's burnt or something, because it smells terrible. That, Kaine held her nose and threw the berry in her mouth, chewing as little as possible. Oh yeah, that's terrible, all right. Why, you little brat, laughed the old woman. Look at the sass on you. Been spending too much time with me, and that's a fact. 5 years had passed since the moment when Kaine's grandmother saved her from the bullies. As is often the way with two stubborn people, their relationship had grown in fits and starts, but moved forward all the same. Meals that used to be somber affairs were now filled with laughter and hurled abuse in equal measure. Kaine could not remember a time when she had been happier. As the years went by, Kaine started to shoulder more and more of the daily responsibilities. Her grandmother's legs grew weaker by the day, and she could no longer do many of the chores she used to take for granted. And so, this morning found Kaine lacing up her work boots with a breakfast of burned berry rolling through her belly. Where are you going today? Asked Grandma suddenly. Kaine looked up, surprised. The old woman rarely asked for specifics anymore. Well, I was gonna check out the kelma trees and see if they were ripe. I thought we could make some jam or something. Oh, and I'm going to pick up some flagstones, so I need to take the wheelbarrow. Flagstones? What in the hell for? Kaine stared at her grandmother, then held out an arm and swept it around their home. Constructed mostly of cloth, rope, and rubble, the whole place sagged like a boxer in the final round. Grandma, a dying cat could chew through this house. We're going to build a stone wall so we have some protection. The old woman laughed, exposing her toothless grin to the world. God damn, girl. If a bunch of thieves want to ransack this old place, let them come. We got nothing worth stealing anyway. I'm not worried about thieves. I'm worried about shades. People saw one west of the village yesterday. The old woman tilted her head and stared at her grandmother. Well, shoot. I don't know why you have to do it today. I can worry about it some other. Grandma, no. I don't go to the kelma trees. We won't eat tonight. You know that. A confused expression passed across the old woman's face, and for a moment she was a small child lost at a carnival. Yes, she said after a bit. Yes, of course. You're right. I'm sorry, Kaine. Lately, it seems my mind is... She didn't finish the thought, instead walking over to her nightstand and gently taking the wreath of lunar tears from the drawer. The flower's petals had aged to a brilliant whiteness, and Kaine thought it was more beautiful now than the day she had first received it. You're gonna be a true woman soon, Grandma said as she placed the flowers in the girl's hair. So that means less chatter about shades and building defensive walls and more talk about how beautiful you've become. Annoyed, Kaine reached up to remove the garland. The look on her grandmother's face stopped her hand. You're a beautiful thing, said the old woman, and there ain't another like you in all the world. I'm very proud of you. Okay, Grandma, it's enough goddamn compliments for one day. Such a mouth on you. Where did that come from? Gee, I wonder. I'll teach you to sass me, girl, yelled Grandma. Suddenly, she lurched forward and grabbed Kaine by the ears, pulling her around the room with a crazed grin on her face. Grandma, yelled Kaine in a quaking voice. Grandma, stop it, what the hell? The old woman stared at her and blinked, then slowly held her wrinkled hands out if it was the first time she'd ever seen them. I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry, girl. Sometimes my mind just... Kaine thought the look on her grandmother's face was the most heartbreaking thing she had ever seen. Listen, she began. Maybe I should just... Oh, I guess this is Kaine speaking. Listen, she began. Maybe I should just stay home after all. No, I won't have you stay here to keep an eye on an old codger like me. Go get your fruit and your wall and whatnot. I'll be fine. When you come back, I'll have a nice grasshopper dinner waiting for you. Kaine rolled her eyes, then kissed her grandmother on the forehead and made ready to depart, trying desperately to ignore the worry that was gnawing at the walls of her heart. Kaine could feel the old woman's eyes watching her as she moved down the path. Don't turn around. Don't turn around, she told herself, but in the end, temptation was too great. She spun on her heel for one final look, and saw a small, bent woman standing in front of a ramshackle hut with a sad expression on her face. God, she looks so old now. It's like the wind could reach down and just carry her away. My goodness gracious. Kinda worried about her grandmother all day. You know what? I'll be taking a quick swig. That's what I'm doing, actually. Because my goodness gracious. Wow. Kinda worried about her grandmother all day, causing her work to suffer. What little fruit she could collect was tossed carelessly into the wheelbarrow, and she only found a couple of stones before losing interest in the project. Finally, as dusk approached, she decided to call it a day. Cursing herself for the lack of focus, Kinda pushed the nearly empty wheelbarrow back down the path. As she crested on the final hill, she suddenly froze in place. The wheelbarrow fell from her fingers and collapsed on its side, sending a few pieces of wrinkled brown fruit rolling back down the hill. Her gaze was transfixed by a thick black cloud that hovered just ahead. Tracing its path with a finger, Kinda suddenly felt her stomach knot in on itself. No. Gods, no. Her grandmother's house was ablaze, the flames licking up as if trying to touch the sky itself. Grandma! Grandma! Kinda ran then, faster than she had ever moved in her life, just making sure the audio levels are A-OK in OBS. Once she tripped on a stone and went sprawling into the rocky ground. She leapt to her feet and continued running, unmindful of the blood that spilled from her wounded hands and knees. As she got closer and closer, Kinda's mind began to race in time with her footfalls. I can't read today. It's too dark. It's too dark. Not just fire. Can't be fire. Too much smoke. Gotta save her. Gotta save her. She burst into the front yard and came to a sudden halt. Her worst suspicions confirmed. The smoke from the fire was mingling with the thick inky blackness of an enormous shade. The massive creature supported itself on 3 twisted feet and achieved balance through means of a large armored tail. Scales, horns, and claws sprouted from its body in random, chaotic pattern, giving it the appearance of a lizard designed by some insane god. Seeing Kaine, it let out a roar and flicked its tail, sending a small whirlwind spinning around the yard. For a moment, the creature retreated into a shimmering, inky blackness, as if her mind was unable to comprehend that such a thing could actually exist. But then the smell hit her, a blend of rotted meat and excrement, and the horror became real once more. The creature bellowed again, and this time, Kaine responded with a scream of her own. Alright, you bastard, she thought as her scream echoed off the high hills around them. It's you or me. Let's go. The shade eyed Kaine with bemused interest. Then it began looking from her to the house and back again, as if urging her to look at the destruction it had so gleefully wrought. With dread building in her heart, Kaine glanced toward the house. Through the smoke and flames, she spotted a small figure struggling to escape the ruins. Grandma! At the sound of her voice, the old woman began waving frantically. She's alive, thought Kaine. Alive! Kaine's legs sprang to life as she raced across the yard toward the flaming wreckage of the house. Before she could advance more than a few steps, the shade opened its mouth and let out a roar, powerful enough to uproot trees and send them flying. The blast sent Kaine tumbling through the air before smashing her against the rocky earth. Stars danced in front of her eyes as she tried to remember how her legs worked. Get up. Get up. Get up, get up, get up now! As Kaine struggled to her feet, the shade stomped toward the house and pinned her grandmother to the ground with the tip of a claw. The old woman struggled to move the claw from her stomach, but she might as well have been pushing a mountain. She coughed briefly, sending a small spray of blood into the air, then collapsed to the ground, her energy spent. Can I just say, I love how music adapts in this game. Like, this theme has been used in a few different situations in the game, and it's now in this visual novel well, not visual novel, just novel section, that I'm able to realize it, like, progressing more and more. Like, there's, like, the super basic bit, and then, like, as conflicts start happening, it brought in, like, the lyrics, and now it's starting to bring in, like, more instruments and stuff and ramp up the intensity. It's like, wow, that's cool, you know? Anyway, as someone that really likes music, I just had to say that. Kaine lurched to her feet, only to fall back to the earth with a gasp. Her ankles were on fire. One or both of them were surely broken. Ignoring the pain that screamed through her body, she began dragging herself across the ground, leaving a drunken trail of dust and blood in her wake. Grandma, hold on. Just a little longer. Her grandmother's face was turning blue, her eyes rolling back until only the whites were exposed. Kaine pulled herself across the ground with maddening slowness, the distance seeming to increase every second that passed. The shade glanced between the two women and flicked out its tongue, its giant mouth turning up at the corners. Short, panted breaths belched from somewhere deep inside its core. Bastard, laughing at us. She had no idea how such a mindless creature could experience emotion, but there could be no doubt the shade was taking joy in their suffering. Yeah, I see your plan. The shade moved its claws slightly, allowing Grandma to breathe again. It was clearly keeping her alive, only to snuff out her life when Kaine was close enough to touch her. I'm gonna kill this bastard. Summoning all her strength, Kaine rose to her feet. There was a sickening snap from her right ankle as the foot twisted backwards, but she forced it from her mind and began to hobble toward the monster. Pulling a small knife from the pouch at her waist, she leapt on the foot that pinned her grandmother and plunged the weapon deep. "Give her back!" she screamed. "Give her back to me!" It was like stabbing a rock. After a few swipes, the knife broke at the hilt with a dull snap. The shade panted laughter again, then raised its tail and sent it rushing through the air toward the young girl that was latched to its foot. Kaine never had a chance, and the tail struck her square in the chest and sent her crashing into the burning wreckage of the home. As she lay on the ground with blood pouring from multiple wounds, a small, weak voice spoke up. "Kaine." Kaine's vision blurred. She forced herself to focus on the sound. Finally, her eyes cleared enough to make out her grandmother's hands reaching out to her through the smoke. "Grandma? Kaine, gotta run. You can't best this one." Kaine grabbed the hands and held on with all her strength. "Grandma, come on, we have to go." The old woman coughed loudly. One of her hands, slick with blood, slipped from Kaine's grasp and thumped to the ground below. "Grandma, no. No. I said run, god damn it. You have to live. You have to get through." Thought would stay forever unfinished. Before she could say another word, the shade's clawed foot descended, smashing through the remains of the roof and down upon the shattered figure of the old woman. Blood oozed from the gaps in the creature's toes as the terrible putrid smell assaulted Kaine's nose once again. She stared at the foot, dumbfounded, convinced that what she was seeing could not possibly be real. When the creature finally lifted its appendage, all that remained underneath was a twisted, unrecognizable mass of rubble and red. Her grandmother was gone. Kaine blinked, trying to feel the hands that had been in hers just a moment before. For a fleeting instant, she could remember the warmth of that embrace, the trembling of the fingers, but then the sensation drifted away on the breeze and was gone. I'm taking another swig here. That's what I'm doing. Memories flashed through Kaine's mind, one after the other, faster and faster, until they became a meaningless jangle of noise. Kaine screamed then, a thunderous sound that echoed off the cliffs and seemed to roll away forever. The shade eased forward, black ichor, I've never seen that word before, pouring from its mouth and dissolving into smoke on the ground below. The earth shook with every step as it crept toward its prey. Kaine's body slowly rose as if controlled by a mad puppet master. Her arms and legs were bent at impossible angles, her head lolled dangerously to the side, yet somehow she managed to stand. Staring at the shade, her eyes began to glow with a deep red fire. The creature, so confident just moments before, took a slow, hesitant step backward, trying to discern if this broken human could possibly pose a threat. Kaine seized the moment. Laughing like a madwoman, she leapt into the air and plunged the shattered hilt of her knife deep into the leg of the shade. The shade shook Kaine off like a fly, sending her crashing to the earth once again. Her chest rose and fell slowly, as if a great weight were resting on it. Moist sounds of pain echoed through her mind. Something warm and thick oozed from her ears. Is that blood? I think it is. I think I'm bleeding to death. No, can't die. Grandma told me to live. Deep inside Kaine's mind, something finally broke. The sound, the pain, the smoke and flames, all of it faded away until all that remained was a single incantation repeated over and over again. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it. Kill it. That's a whole lot of that. Sounds like Shulk being possessed by the Monado. Kill it now. As the spark that was Kaine slowly began to flicker and die, she felt her desire to kill and her desire to live blend into one. The distance between heartbeats grew longer, and longer, and longer.
The beast approaches. Oh, I know.
So we're fighting this bitch again, is the case. Wow, I gotta remember how to play this beer video game. That's what I gotta do. Oh my goodness, the camera being really weird for a hot second. So when it was saying that, like, the time between heartbeats was growing longer and longer and longer, does that imply that she was losing her humanity, turning shade? I imagine.
Not gonna let this happen again.
Yeah, I don't know how the heck it survived for 5 years. Just chilling down there. Just having the grandest time, you know.
It's not the blade, but the skill of the user. Strike it down.
Wait, did he say that his blade feels lighter before? Or is that, like, kind of implying that it's, like, one of those game situations where there's, like, some lingering memories of, you know, the previous run? Whenever a game plays multiple playthroughs into its story and, you know, has it be, like, a big existential kind of thing, where Bob? Where save files and experiences are part of the story as well? Him saying that his blade feels lighter, is that to imply that, like, he still has the experience of the last playthrough? Dead. Well, I don't have to face you again, but we'll see. We got another dream thing. Yeah, we got another dream thing, Bob. And okay, so that line was mentioned before, but double meaning, I guess. Gently, weakly, softly. The shade, sure that its tormentor was dead, turned and stomped off towards the horizon, stopping along the way to bellow one final roar. Couldn't kill it. Shamed beyond imagining, Kaine tried to turn her head to the side, but only succeeded in coughing up a huge gout of blood. It was getting difficult to see, and only after a moment of fierce concentration did she realize that her left eye was gone. Laughing to herself, she turned her remaining eye to the ruins of her home, and noticed a ragged stump of arm resting a few feet away. Yeah, that's mine, she thought with a mad giggle. This is gonna make clapping a real bitch. It refers to both the time skip making NieR more skilled at blade work and how the users become more skilled by doing multiple playthroughs. Huh. Okay, but it's not really a story parallel kind of thing, I guess. Huh. A sudden voice cried from the depths of her mind. Finally gonna die, are you? Well, you had it coming. Oh, that was go to hell, demon, she thought at the unseen assailant. Go to hell before I pluck out your eyes and feed them to a dog. The voice of her childhood terror evaporated in a smoke, only to be replaced by another, more recent voice. Hold still, said the apothecary, materializing from the ruins like a ghost. I want to draw you. That way you can live forever. No, stop. I don't want to live forever. I want to die right here. I see, he said quietly. Well, if that's what you want. The spectral shopkeeper fluttered in and out of existence for a moment, then produced a piece of paper and sketched quietly. After a few seconds, he turned the page to Kaine and smiled. Since you rejected my offer, I decided to draw someone else. It was a picture of her grandmother, real as life. Kaine opened her mouth to thank the man, but stopped as the picture began to blacken in the middle. Before she could say anything, dozens of multi-legged insects began to swarm across the image, tearing at it with sharpened pincers. No, stop, no, don't hurt that picture. Kaine reached out with her remaining arm and waved futilely at the air. Maybe this wasn't the day to do NieR Replicant, because, like, my voice isn't in the best of states. Gosh dang it. Well, too late now. To her surprise, the insects fell off the picture into the ground below, where they vanished into tiny black tendrils of smoke. Relieved, Kane turned her good eye back to the picture, only to open her mouth in a silent scream. The sketch now showed her grandmother as she truly was, a smashed, unrecognizable lump of nothing. The apothecary smiled, then broke into a jolly dance. "See that?" he cried as he danced his jig. "It's perfect now. She looks just like you. Ha cha cha. They look like that. God. Oh God, I'm gonna die. Gonna die." Drowning in despair, Kanye laid her head back in the mud and smoke of her ruined house and waited for the end to come. But just before she let everything go, an unfamiliar voice began whispering in her ear. "Ain't you got a wish, sunshine?" The voice was vulgar and fierce at the same time, as if insanity had somehow found a way to take form. Kanye wanted to scream as the voice crawled under her skin, but her lungs refused to work. Okay, I guess maybe it would have just been like my more standard voice to her. At first I thought it would be like her imagining her grandmother speaking for a hot second. You know, a wish? Like a prayer or something? I don't get on her knees and start praying to heaven. Oh, this is probably like meant to encapsulate Dima. Something. Why don't you get on your knees and start praying to heaven? "Please, invisible man in the sky, save me! Save me! Hi, Fury! Welcome to not even a visual novel, just a novel. While things are happening." Kanye finally resorted to shouting at the voice in her mind. "I don't make wishes. They don't come true for me. I'm a curse, a freak. I should be left to die." The other voice boomed in her ears. "The Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage test that gets progressively..." "Oh God, you are the best." Kanye glanced down and saw a black, shiny substance oozing from her legs. She tried to brush it away. "Hi!" But her remaining arm would no longer respond. "Hi, Jesse." The substance slowly crept around her feet, then began moving up toward the rest of her body. Is this death? Is this what it's like? Or is my mind just losing itself? She could feel the slime oozing upward, feel the hot, searing pain it left in its wake. Whatever else might be happening, she was still alive, and this was real. "Come on," said the voice. "Let it go." Kanye tried to ignore the voice and concentrate on the pain. The newcomer would have none of it. "Don't ignore me, sunshine. You're ready to give up, ready to die. So why not let me have it?" "Have what?" "Your body. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me. I want to stand on the ground, feel the rain, taste the wind." The voice paused, as if licking its lips. When it resumed, it was filled with mad, unabated joy. "I want to take your hands and use them to choke the goddamn life out of people. I want to tear out their throats and bathe in the blood, just like before." In response, Kanye shifted her head and vomited. The warmth of it crept down her front and mingled with the pain of the encroaching black ooze. "Are you a shade?" "Yeah, maybe. What of it?" Slime reached her face, crept up past her nose, and slowly oozed into the socket of her missing eye. The moment it touched her brain, Kanye was struck by the most powerful sensation she ever felt in her life. It was ecstasy. She wanted to scream with delight, but all she could manage was a small, whispered moan. "Feels good, don't it?" asked the voice with a chuckle. "Yeah, what can I say? I know how to please the ladies. Now give me that body. Come on, give me the body and I'll give you more of this feeling. It's a fair trade." A black lump began to protrude from Kanye's side. As she watched, it grew longer and thicker, eventually taking the form of her missing arm. "I can see better," she thought. "My eye must be growing back too." The slime reached up to envelop the rest of her face, but she managed to brush it away. "Stop," she whispered, marveling at how she had regained her voice. "Stop." Black ooze hesitated, as if considering this request, then quickly shimmered down her body before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. "Now what the hell, sunshine?" screamed the voice. "We had a deal. I thought you wanted to die." Emma said, "Can't die yet." A brief image of her grandmother, bloodied and broken, flashed before her eyes. She saw the shade that had killed her and heard its mocking laughter, then closed her eyes and forced the image from her mind. Her whole body was quaking with rage. When she opened her eyes again, they burned bright red. "That thing took my grandmother. I have to kill it before I die." Kanye glanced down and saw a mysterious pattern. The pattern of the shades burn itself into her left arm. "Well, I'll be damned," said the voice cheerfully. "Look at that, sunshine. I think you and me are gonna be good friends now." Kanye stared intently at her arm. A The more emotional she felt, the more the letter seemed ready to puncture her skin and begin infecting the rest of her body. The arm clearly had a will of its own now. Stop. Gotta stop. Holding her left arm in her right, Kaine took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. Come on, don't fight it, pleaded the voice. It's my favorite dish, and I'm hungry. Let it go. Feel the anger. Burn with the fire of revenge. Thirst for blood. Then go out there and... Shut up. Shut up and get the hell out of my body. Your body? Oh, that's rich, Sunshine. Real rich. Look, why don't you just up and die so I can have this body all to myself? What do you say? I bet those buddies of yours in the area would love to see you dead. Kaine grabbed a nearby shard of glass and tried to saw off the shade-infected portion of her side. Before she could, her darkened left arm grabbed her right wrist, crushing it. Kaine screamed and dropped the shard as the sound of bone crunching on bone filled the air. Stupid idiot girl. You're possessed now, Sunshine, and there ain't no going back. The voice laughed again, a loud, long wail that seemed to go on without end. Possessed? Whispered Kaine. Yeah, possessed. You and me? I got what you might call a timeshare agreement. Remember how folks used to think you were a freak? Well, wait till they get a load of you now. Kaine looked up, tears in her eyes. The sky seemed smaller somehow, darker. Is this because of that shade? Is this how they see the world? So, listen, heard the voice. I know this whole possession thing seems a bit sudden, but it ain't all bad. There's plenty in it for you, too. I'm a very powerful creature, Sunshine, and now that power belongs to you. You got enemies? People you want to kill? I can make it happen. That little fat kid who kept picking on you? That big old shade that squashed your granny? I'll wrap them up in their own assholes. No more abuse for you, Sunshine. No more pain. Wait, said Kaine. You're a shade. Why would you help me kill another shade? What, you think I'm some kind of racist? Some killing snob? I don't give a good goddamn who you murder, honey pants. I just want to drink from the well. Kaine considered this as she struggled to her feet, the power of the shade coursing through her. Smoke from her house was drifting away with the wind, and she enjoyed the way the cool evening breeze now felt on her new left arm. After a long pause, the voice spoke up again. So, how about it? You and me? We could have some good times together. Look, I'll even take care of the bloody parts if you don't want. Fuck off, asshole, muttered Kaine. I'll handle the killing. Screamed the voice. Look at you go. Oh, Sunshine, we're gonna have so much fun. So, listen. My name's Tyron, and if you ever need me, I'll just be hanging out in this piece of me you call a heart. Now get to it. The more you kill, the more your heart turns rotten and sour. And I like rotten sour. Kaine found herself nodding at the voice. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I think this can work. I'm gonna find that shade. I'm gonna strangle it with its own guts. And when I'm done, I'm gonna do the same to you, Tyron. Count on it. Ha! Laughed Tyron. I've shit bigger than you, so good luck with that. Oh, and hey, one more thing. Right now, you and me are sharing this body. But if you ever run out of hate, if you ever, go soft, I'm gonna take over everything. Keep on killing, Sunshine. Watch your back. The voice grew fainter and gradually faded away, fading to somewhere deep inside Kaine herself. Kaine waited until she was sure the voice was gone, then waved her new left arm around a few times. Feels perfectly normal, she thought. Feels like mine. Desperately, she began poking and prodding at the new limb, determined to find something wrong with it. She didn't want it to feel normal. That would mean the creature inside her had already won. I'm not a shade. I'm Kaine. Repeating this mantra in her mind, she slowly began digging through the rubble of her house, being careful to ignore a certain red-stained spot in the corner. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of heartbreaking work, she found what she was looking for. It was the wreath of lunar tears. Though it had been through hell and back, the garland's petals were as bright as ever. I'm gonna adjust this a little bit, like that. And I started to place it in her hair, then slowly lowered the wreath and stared at it. Also, if you're wondering what that under my chair is, that's a blanket that I've got over my legs right now because I'm a little bit cold. I guess you can't see it anymore. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry. But I don't deserve to wear this anymore. I'm possessed, corrupted, freak. And this time, I don't think there's any going back. Holding the flowers to her heart, Kaine fell to the ground and sobbed. As night gradually lightened to dawn and the people of the area rose to their daily lives, she remained in that position, as if tears could somehow wash away the horror that now infected her world.
Alive. Stay alive.
Now it's proper cutscene.
Stay alive.
Grandma.
Kaine, you gotta live. You gotta come back to us.
Oh, hey. Emil, you were the one calling me, weren't you?
You still recognize me?
Of course. I knew you right away.
Thank you, Kaine.
Welcome back, Kaine.
Wow, you grew up. So, how long has it been?
5 years.
Shit. That's a long time. Any luck with Yona?
We are still no closer to finding her. We need a way to locate the Shadow Lord.
By the way, this is for you.
Is that a lunar tear?
It's not as good as your grandmother's, but I tried.
No, it's great. Thank you.
Kaine waking from her long petrified sleep. Emil's unflagging kindness. Our reunion was a happy one, and we let it wash over us like rain. That is, until Devila and Popola had to go and ruin it all. Are you kidding me? You can't be serious!
Please try to understand.
Damn Binch kicking out my friends again.
People are tired and scared. And
After fighting us not that long ago.
I'm sorry you have to bear the brunt of that.
This is crap, and you know it!
It's okay. We can sleep outside.
No one's sleeping outside. You and Kaine saved this village, and now they want to run you out?
People are afraid of us. And really, I understand. I mean, look at me. As long
I mean,
as
you're pretty
still
cool,
with us,
Sans.
I can deal with it. Right, Kaine?
I'm used to sleeping outside.
But
We'll see you later.
Sorry about this.
How very rude. R-O-O-D,
What's
rude.
the matter?
Kaine always sleeps outside. I never thought about that until just now. Never even occurred to me. Damn it.
We should turn in.
So am I once again turning in at home rather than like chilling outside with my friends?
I didn't get much sleep that
No.
night.
I guess so.
For the first time in my life, I hate
Actually, I don't really need to turn off my camera here, do I? Doesn't really matter here.
For the first time in my life, I doubted Popola.
Yeah, I mean, they might not have our best interests in mind, as we found out from last time.
They said and did.
They
what
might
did
feel a little bit
for the
inclined to prevent us from getting to Mr. Shadow Lord there.
to protect it.
Is the
from
case.
horror of the shades.
Yes, spooky. Oh yeah, by the way, it's currently September 16th.
Really, how can I?
NieR
blame
Automata's
Devila?
coming out on the Switch on October 6th. I don't think I'm beating this before
Yeah,
NieR
just as
Automata
bad.
comes out. I don't think it's happening.
Because I never once stopped to think about Kaine and Emil's situation
I
myself.
kind of hoped that I could do it before. Like when I first started this playthrough. I mean, maybe I could have if I committed hard. But even so, I wouldn't get all the uploads out in time. What's this? Is this new? Is this old? I'm gonna be asking that through like so many cutscenes.
But what good would that even do?
I got a fire going.
Wait, is that?
Campfires are... I'm so happy to get to talk to you again, Kaine.
Yeah, me too.
I tried everything I could think of to save you, you know. I polished you with a special cloth. I poured warm water over you.
Wait, you poured water on me?
Yeah, but it didn't really do much except make you all shiny.
Hey, Emil. Thanks for saving me.
I guess you noticed how I look different now.
I'm sorry, Emil. I'm sorry for all of it.
Well, I mean, this new form isn't all bad, you know? At least I can look at you when we talk, right? Hey, so why don't you tell me something about yourself?
I'm not very interesting. Sorry.
Come on, I just want to know you better. Please?
Fine. This all happened when I was a kid, before the whole shade possession thing. My body is different. And when the villagers found out about it, they started treating me like a freak. But one person, my grandmother, accepted me just as I was. No matter how bad things got, she gave me the strength to keep going.
She's really special to you, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, hey! That gives me an idea. Since we cured your petrification, we should start looking for a way to cure your possession in my body. I know we can do it if we all work together. Heck, it'll probably be super easy.
Let me guess. More warm water?
Okay, can we just forget I told you about that?